He thought he knew his wife, thought their 7-year bond could survive any storm. But when an evening that began with a refined dinner ended with a blood-chilling proposition, it became clear. There was no turning back. When the person you love smiles at you, looks you in the eye, and casually suggests destroying everything you've built together, how do you ever stay the same? He came to the city of sin hoping to reconnect, but he left broken, hollow, and alone. Yet before he walked away, he left a mark that won't be forgotten. Not by her, not by him, not by you. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. They always say what happens in Vegas stays there. But that's not entirely true. Some choices cling to you like a second skin, tearing apart the life you once thought was unshakable. Never in my wildest thoughts did I expect a trip to Las Vegas with my wife Virginia to leave me wrestling with betrayal, devastation, and a truth that would upend everything. Virginia had been planting the idea of a Vegas getaway for months. One morning, she looked up from her laptop, a gleam in her hazel eyes and a wide smile on her face. "I just booked us a suite at the Venetian," she said brightly, turning the screen toward me. Her excitement was infectious. "We deserve this, just the two of us. A real break." I didn't see any reason to refuse. After 7 years together, while things between us weren't perfect, I believed they were solid. This trip seemed like the perfect opportunity to reconnect, maybe even reignite a spark we hadn't felt in a while. Vegas was exactly what I had imagined. A kaleidoscope of neon lights, constant noise, and a reckless undercurrent promising that anything could happen. But by our second night, something shifted in Virginia. We were having dinner at a rooftop restaurant, gazing out over the glittering chaos of the Strip. She was twirling her martini by the stem, her cheeks glowing with excitement, when she casually dropped a grenade. "I heard about something interesting," she said, stirring her drink slowly. "There's a party. For swingers." I almost choked on my steak. "A what?" I managed to sputter. "A swingers party," she repeated, her voice oddly nonchalant. "Couples go to explore, try new experiences. It's supposed to make relationships stronger." "Stronger?" I echoed, my pulse hammering. "By sleeping with other people?" I tried to keep my voice even, but I could feel the anger rising. "It's not like that," she said quickly, leaning in closer, her voice soft and coaxing. "It's just for one night. A lot of couples do it." I set my fork down harder than intended. "Absolutely not." Her smile faded, replaced by a sharp edge. "Why are you being so rigid? We've been in a rut for a long time. Maybe this could be exactly what we need." I shook my head, struggling to control my temper. "Virginia, if you honestly believe the way to fix our marriage is by throwing ourselves into something like that, maybe our problems are deeper than I thought." She crossed her arms tightly over her chest, her gaze hard. "It's not sleazy. It's freeing. You're being judgmental. And you're being reckless," I snapped back. "Listen to yourself. You think this is the solution? I'm telling you now, I want no part of it." The argument followed us back to the suite, the air between us thick with bitterness and anger. She accused me of being controlling. I accused her of trampling everything we had spent years building. When I woke the next morning, she was gone. Her purse was missing, along with the black stilettos she wore whenever she wanted to feel unstoppable. I sat at the edge of the bed, gripping my phone, my mind spiraling through every worst-case scenario imaginable. It wasn't until after noon that I finally got a text from her. "Out. Be back later." Later stretched on endlessly. When she finally walked back into the suite, the sky outside was bleeding into twilight. I asked her where she'd been, but she dodged the question, her mind clearly somewhere else. And then she dropped another bombshell. "I'm going to the party tonight," she said, her voice flat, almost emotionless. I stared at her in disbelief. You're serious? She nodded. I've made my decision. I stood up from the bed, my voice cold and controlled. Virginia, if you walk out that door tonight, there's no coming back. She rolled her eyes and let out a huff. You're being dramatic. It's just one night. No, I said firmly. It's not just one night. It's a line you're choosing to cross. And you already have. She threw up her hands in exasperation. Why does everything with you have to be a threat? Why can't you just trust me for once? Trust you? I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. You want me to trust you while you go sleep with strangers? That's not what this is about, she shouted back, her voice shaking with anger. It's about being open, trying something new. Tons of couples do this. It's healthy. Healthy? I repeated, the word sour on my tongue. How does breaking every promise we made make us stronger? She folded her arms again, her face hard. You're impossible. I'm trying to grow, to explore, and you're slamming the door shut. Because it's insanity, I shouted, unable to bottle it any longer. You're not saving our marriage. You're setting fire to it. That's not true, she whispered, her voice finally cracking. I need this, Marshall. I don't know how else to explain it. I paced the room, fury and heartbreak colliding inside me. You need this? I need a wife who doesn't mistake betrayal for self-discovery. I can't believe this is even a conversation, I said, my voice thick with disbelief. This isn't who we are. It's not who I am. With a weary sigh, she sank onto the edge of the bed, her movements heavy. My decision's final, Marshall. I'm leaving, she said quietly. I don't want to keep fighting, she added. I stopped pacing and met her gaze, my chest tightening. So that's it? You've just decided? Just like that? Yes, she replied firmly. I'm not going to change my mind. As Virginia flitted around the room getting ready for the night's party, I remained at the desk, staring blankly at my phone. In the mirror's reflection, she looked stunning, humming softly as she curled her hair and applied her lipstick with delicate care. Meanwhile, I quietly booked the next flight out, scheduled to leave in just a few hours. My plan was simple: disappear before she stumbled back from her night, leaving only an empty room behind. Deep down, I knew the truth. Whatever we had was already over. She had made her choice, and with it, closed the door on us. Once my ticket was confirmed, I immediately canceled her return flight. How she'd get home wasn't my concern anymore. Without hesitation, I logged into our shared bank account and transferred every cent into my personal one. She wouldn't be wasting another dollar of what we built on wild nights in Vegas. Setting the phone down, I exhaled a sharp, bitter breath, the combined weight of anger and grief pressing hard against my ribs. As dusk draped itself over the city, she finally finished dressing. She wore a glittering, tight-fitting dress that hugged every curve, paired with high heels that made her legs seem endless. Catching me watching her, she tilted her head slightly. "What?" she asked, a faint scowl creasing her brow. I stood from the chair and shook my head slowly. "Nothing," I muttered under my breath. She adjusted her earrings with a distracted air, a flicker of a smile playing at her lips. "Are you absolutely sure you don't want to come with me, Marshall? Maybe it would do us some good," she offered. A dry, humorless laugh escaped me. "Good for us," I repeated, disbelief sharpening my voice. "Listen to yourself, Virginia," I snapped. "You're walking out that door, knowing full well what it means." "It doesn't have to mean anything," she shot back, folding her arms defensively. "You're the one making this into some huge drama." I stepped closer, my voice rising despite myself. "You really believe that throwing away a marriage is no big deal? That being selfish and disrespectful is just something I should swallow?" Grinding my teeth, I warned her through a clenched jaw, "You walk out that door and it's done. No coming back." Leaning against the dresser, she let out an exasperated sigh. "You're so damn rigid, Marshall. Everything is black or white with you. God, I wish you knew how to just live a little," she said bitterly. She grabbed her purse and strode toward the door. With her hand on the knob, she glanced over her shoulder. "I'll be back late," she said, her tone sharp and defiant. "Don't bother waiting up." I said nothing. The door closed behind her with a final, hollow click. As soon as the silence settled over the room, I yanked my suitcase from the closet and started throwing my clothes into it in a frenzy, not caring how they landed. My heart twisted painfully in my chest, but I forced myself to push through. This wasn't a time for second thoughts. When the suitcase was zipped and packed, I stood surveying the room. It didn't feel like leaving a hotel. It felt like walking away from 7 years of my life. Maybe that's exactly what it was. While Virginia was likely arriving at her party, laughing and drinking, I was already en route to the airport, racing toward a future she would no longer be part of. I landed back home around 2 in the morning, exhausted but resolute. At the house, I dropped my bag and collapsed onto the bed, staring up at the blank ceiling. Sleep was elusive, but eventually the heavy, hollow silence dragged me under into a shallow, uneasy sleep. The next morning, my phone buzzed relentlessly on the nightstand. Half asleep, I grabbed it and saw Virginia's name flashing again and again across the screen, a flood of missed calls, her desperation practically screaming through the notifications. With a tired sigh, I tossed the phone aside, letting it buzz uselessly as another call came through. After almost an hour of non-stop ringing, I finally picked up. "Marshall, where are you?" she cried, her voice thick with panic. "Why is all your stuff gone?" "I'm home," I replied flatly. "I warned you," I continued, my voice even and cold. "Go to that party, and it's over. You chose." "What do you mean you're home?" she shouted. "You just left? Without even telling me?" "I didn't owe you that," I said icily. "You made your decision, Virginia. You wanted to run off and act like you were single? Fine. But I'm not going to be your fool. You're making this way bigger than it was," she snapped, her voice cracking under the strain. "It was just one night. How can you be so heartless?" "Heartless," I repeated, my voice slicing through the phone. "You call this heartless? You knew what walking out that door meant. You still did it." On the other end of the line, I heard her breathing hitch, sharp and shallow. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I thought you'd cool off. We could fix it." "There's nothing left to fix," I said, my voice a stone wall. "You walked out. You ended it. Oh, and just so you know, I canceled your flight back. You'll have to figure it out on your own." "You did what?" she screamed, her voice shattering through the receiver. "You can't just walk away like this." "What am I supposed to do?" she cried out, her voice rising in panic. "That's not my concern anymore," I answered, my tone ice-cold, refusing to let her guilt pull me back in. "I don't want you returning, Virginia." "We're over. I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow," I continued, my voice unwavering. "I don't ever want to see you again." "You're leaving me?" she choked out between sobs, her voice breaking under the weight of it. "Marshall, please. We can work through this." "It was just a mistake," she insisted, desperation thick in her voice. "No," I snapped, cutting her off without hesitation. "This wasn't a mistake, Virginia. It was a conscious decision, and now I'm making mine." "It's finished," I said firmly. "Your things will be sent to your mother's house. Don't come back here." All I heard on the line was the sound of her uneven breathing. Whether she was trying to hold back tears or muster another plea, it no longer mattered to me. "I have nothing more to say to you," I said after a long, heavy silence. "Goodbye, Virginia." I ended the call before she could respond, tossed my phone onto the couch, and leaned back with a long, exhausted breath. My heart hurt, but at the same time, a strange calm washed over me. I had finally done what had to be done. I had severed ties with something that had poisoned my life, and there was no going back. The days that followed blurred together in a mess of paperwork and long meetings with my lawyer. Virginia bombarded me with emails and messages, begging for another chance. but I stayed silent. My decision was made. I reached out to Virginia's mother, explained the situation, and told her that her daughter's belongings would be sent to her. She sounded stunned. "Are you absolutely certain, Marshall?" she asked, disbelief evident in her voice. I told her everything, the argument, the betrayal, and my decision to walk away for good. "I just can't believe this," she murmured, grief heavy in her words. "I never thought it would come to this." "I'm sorry," I said, doing my best to keep my voice steady. "But it's over. There's no changing that." There was a long, aching silence before she spoke again. "I just don't understand," she said quietly. "You two always seemed so happy together." "We weren't," I replied simply, the truth cutting deeper into me than I expected. "I have to take care of myself now." After hanging up, I sat down with my lawyer and officially began the divorce proceedings. Virginia's attorney proposed mediation, but I refused. There was nothing left to negotiate. She had made her choices, and I was making mine. The court dates passed, each one pulling me closer to a clean break. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. I hadn't heard from Virginia since, and honestly, I didn't know if I ever wanted to. Life after the divorce felt strange, quiet, peaceful, and occasionally unsettling. I poured my energy into the parts of my life I had long ignored. Even though Virginia would sometimes cross my mind, deep down, I knew I never wanted to go back to the life we shared. One afternoon, an email from her appeared in my inbox, an apology, full of sorrow and regret. But it came too late. I deleted it after reading only the first line. That chapter of my life was over. I was moving forward. In time, I met someone new, someone who valued honesty and respect, things I hadn't realized I had been missing for so long. I didn't long for the past. The divorce had been painful, yes, but it had been necessary. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt free. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you